The cold morning breeze caressed my face as I contemplated Vancouver's horizon. The skyscrapers gleamed under the rising sun, creating a mosaic of glass and steel that seemed to dance with the light. Finally, I was there, in the city I had always imagined in my deepest dreams, Vancouver, Canada. The name sounded like music on my lips, like a promise of freedom I so longed for. I remember the day I first set foot on Canadian soil. The airport was full. People from all corners of the world converged in that place, each with their own story, their own dreams. And there I was, Wahid Omid, an Afghan musician, with just a few suitcases and a heart full of hope. The immigration officer smiled at me as he stamped my document. "Welcome to Canada," he said. 3 simple words that carried the weight of a new life. The first days were of discovery. The Canadian government not only welcomed me, but provided me with accommodation. A small apartment in the city center, modest but clean and comfortable, very different from the places where I had lived before. Through the window, I could see the movement of the city, people walking hurriedly, dressed in colorful and elegant clothes. I dreamed of the day when I would be among them, not as a refugee, but as an integral part of that society. The language barrier was the first obstacle to overcome. In English school, I sat in the front row, absorbing every word, every grammatical rule like a sponge. My fingers, accustomed to dancing through the strings of musical instruments, now held pens and traced strange letters in new notebooks. At night, exhausted, I repeated words in a low voice, like a mantra that would lead me to the future I longed for. Vancouver revealed itself to be a city of infinite layers. In the streets of Gastown, with its exposed brick buildings and the iconic steam clock, I felt the weight of history. In Stanley Park, the lush nature reminded me that even in large metropolises, there was space to breathe. The mountains to the north, always covered in snow, seemed like vigilant sentinels, guarding the city and its inhabitants. It was during one of my exploratory walks through the city that I realized the diversity that surrounded me. Faces of all ethnicities, languages from all corners of the world. Vancouver was not just a Canadian city, it was a microcosm of the entire planet. And it was this perception that made me seek out my compatriots. The Afghan community was not difficult to find. There was a small cafe in the Commercial Drive neighborhood where they gathered. I entered hesitantly. The aroma of cardamom and cinnamon instantly transported me to the streets of Kabul. Men played cards at corner tables, chatting animatedly in Dari and Pashto. When they saw me, there was a moment of curiosity, followed by warm welcomes. "Are you new to the city?" asked a middle-aged man, offering me a cup of green tea. His name was Farid, and he had been in Canada for more than a decade. As we talked, I noticed that his hands had calluses similar to mine, the marks of a musician. "Do you play?" I asked, pointing to his hands. He smiled, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I used to play the robab in Kabul. Now, just occasionally, so as not to forget." It was through Farid that I met Khalid Nassery. The same age, and we were born at the same month of September. With infectious enthusiasm, Khalid had an easy smile and eyes that sparkled when he talked about music. In our first meeting, we talked for hours, sharing stories, dreams, and inevitably, the painful memories of the land we left behind. "I want to be a singer," Khalid confessed as we walked along English Bay Beach, watching the sun sink into the Pacific horizon. "I've always dreamed of mixing traditional Afghan sounds with Western rhythms. Something that could tell our story, but that would also make people dance." His words resonated with me like an echo of my own desires. I saw in him not just a friend, but someone to whom I could pass on my musical knowledge. Someone who could continue telling our stories through music when I could no longer do so. Our rehearsals began in my small apartment. Khaled was an avid learner, absorbing techniques and theories with impressive speed. His hands, initially clumsy on the keyboard, soon developed a fluidity that surprised me. And his voice, oh, his voice had that rare quality that could transport listeners to different emotional dimensions. Between English classes and rehearsals with Khaled, I tried to keep in touch with my family in Kabul. The calls were expensive and the connections precarious. Each conversation was filled with static and interruptions, but even so, I clung to every word, every familiar sigh that came from the other side of the world. The situation in Afghanistan was deteriorating rapidly. My mother, always trying to protect me, reported only fragments of reality. But the news didn't lie. Daily explosions, shootings, a government losing control, people desperate for ways out. The images on Canadian television showed streets I knew well, now covered in rubble and blood. I often woke up in the middle of the night, in a cold sweat, haunted by nightmares where I ran through the streets of Kabul, desperately searching for familiar faces among the terrified crowd. In the following days, I walked the peaceful streets of Vancouver, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. Relief for being safe, guilt for having left so many behind. It was on one of those restless nights that I received the call. The tone of my cousin's voice already indicated the gravity of the news. My younger brother had been shot by government soldiers. A mistake, they said. He survived, but would carry a scar on his chest for the rest of his life. A permanent reminder of the brutality that had become commonplace in our country. The following weeks passed in a blur of worry and powerlessness. I tried to concentrate on classes, on rehearsals with Khaled, but my mind was constantly divided, part in Vancouver, part in Kabul. It was during this time that I began to compose a series of melancholic melodies that would later be known as Echoes of Home, a musical attempt to process the pain and longing that consumed me. Then came the hardest blow. My father, that robust man who had faced so many adversities with dignity, could not bear the weight of events. A heart attack took him away on a cold night of the Afghan winter. The news reached me days later, not from my family, who tried to protect me from the pain, but through a former neighbor who had recently arrived in Vancouver. Grief is different when you are far away. There are no family rituals, no consoling hugs, no comfort in visiting a grave. There is only a void that grows, fed by distance and powerlessness. In the days that followed, I took refuge in music, playing until my fingers hurt, composing melodies that tried to give shape to indescribable pain. Vancouver, once so vibrant and promising, now seemed covered by a gray veil. The same streets that once enchanted me now seemed alien, constantly reminding me that I was worlds away from where I should be in that moment of family pain. It was Khaled who brought me back to the surface. With his youth and unwavering optimism, he dragged me out of the apartment, to rehearsals, to small performances in the Afghan community. "Your music is your voice," he would say. "And now, more than ever, you need to be heard." Slowly, the news from home began to change in tone. My family, or what remained of it, was moving. My mother and my 2 younger brothers had fled to Tajikistan. Uncles, aunts, cousins, all scattered like leaves in the wind, seeking refuge in neighboring countries, leaving behind a lifetime, memories buried under rubble. The call I finally managed to make to my mother in Tashkent was a mix of joy and pain. Hearing her voice was like a balm for my wounded soul, but the circumstances were devastating. She spoke quickly, nervously, words stumbling over each other. They were safe, but lost. With little money, not knowing the language, in a foreign country with 2 scared children. "Don't worry, Mother," I told her, swallowing the knot in my throat. "I'll take care of you. I'll bring you to Canada." The words came out with more conviction than I actually felt, but at that moment, that was what she needed to hear. It was what I needed to tell myself. I suggested they move to Kyiv, Ukraine, the city where I had studied music, where I had friends who could help them while I worked on the process of bringing them to Canada. My mother agreed, and the long train journey began. from Tashkent to Moscow, and then to Kiev. The days that followed were of anguishing expectation. I imagined them on Soviet trains, crossing unknown landscapes, my mother trying to be strong for my brothers, hiding her own fear. Meanwhile, in Vancouver, I was beginning my own battle, finding work, saving money, starting the family reunification process. Vancouver wasn't just beautiful, it was expensive. My government aid covered only the basics, and I needed more, much more, to help my family. I spoke to Cullen about my situation, and he promised to help me find work. "I'll do anything," I told him. "I'll wash dishes, clean floors, work in construction, anything that pays." There was no pride in my words, only determination. Music, my lifelong passion, would have to wait. Now it was about survival, theirs and mine. As night fell over Vancouver, I sat by the window of my small apartment, watching the city lights and thinking of my family, now dispersed throughout the world. The contrast couldn't be greater. Me in one of the safest and most prosperous cities in the world, they fleeing from war, seeking safety in foreign countries. I promised myself I would do everything in my power to reunite us again, to build a new home on Canadian soil. What I didn't know was that fate had different plans, challenges that would test my resilience beyond the imaginable. Moscow received my family with a blanket of snow and indifference. My mother's account of that cold night at the train station still resonates in my mind with painful vividness. 3 solitary figures, my mother and my 2 younger brothers, standing on the snow-covered platform, anxiously looking at every passing face, waiting to see my uncle, who had promised to meet them. The hours passed, the station emptied, and my uncle, that same man who once held a ministerial position in the Afghan government before fleeing to the Soviet Union, never appeared. My mother, with fingers numb from the cold, tried to call him repeatedly. Silence. That night marked our family forever. The betrayal of blood has a particularly bitter taste. In Vancouver, I received the news with a mixture of anger and despair. My family had managed to find a hotel for that night, but the money was quickly running out. In the weeks that followed, my mother, with the resilience that always characterized her, managed to rent a small apartment in a peripheral district of Moscow. But the situation was precarious, and I knew time was running against us. Khaled, true to his promise, introduced me to an opportunity. An Afghan and Greek restaurant in downtown Vancouver needed a kitchen helper. The owner, Dr. Karam, was also a professor at the University of British Columbia, a cultured and kind man who well understood the situation of Afghan refugees. My first day at the restaurant was a mixture of enthusiasm and exhaustion. The hours were long, the physical work intense. My fingers, accustomed to the delicacy of instrument strings, now cut onions, washed dishes, carried heavy boxes. At night, I returned home with aching muscles, but with a renewed sense of purpose. Every dollar earned was a step toward reuniting my family. My routine became frantic. In the morning, English classes. In the afternoon, work at the restaurant. At night, I gave music lessons to Khaled, and on weekends, did small performances at Iranian restaurants to earn extra money. I slept little, ate poorly, driven by an almost obsessive determination to save as much as possible. Khaled progressed rapidly in his musical abilities. In a few months, he mastered the keyboard with surprising fluidity, and we began to do small performances for the Afghan community in Vancouver. These were moments of joy amid so many concerns. Seeing the faces of my compatriots light up with familiar melodies, songs that spoke of love, loss, and hope in a language that carried the taste of home. Meanwhile, in Moscow, my mother initiated the process of applying for a visa to Canada. I sent her a letter of invitation. She gathered the necessary documentation and waited for the interview at the Canadian Embassy with a hopeful heart. The call came on a gray winter morning. My mother's voice, trembling and discouraged, told me the result. Visa denied. Without clear explanations, just a bureaucratic no that destroyed our immediate hopes. We talked for hours that day, trying to chart new plans, new strategies. But the painful truth was beginning to crystallize. Bringing my family to Canada would be much more difficult than I had imagined. The weight of this realization, added to the strenuous pace I had imposed on myself, began to take its toll. The accumulated stress since my escape from Turkey, the constant worry about my family, the long working hours, all of this formed a perfect storm that my body could no longer withstand. That cold winter day began like any other. I woke up early, prepared for classes, ignoring the slight headache and discomfort in my throat. At school, the teacher noticed my condition. "You don't look well, Wahid," she commented. I ignored it, as I always did when it came to my own health. In the afternoon, at the restaurant, the situation worsened. My muscles ached inexplicably, and a deep fatigue seemed to pull me down. Dr. Karam insisted I go home early. "You look sick," he said, genuine concern in his eyes. "Rest, come back when you're better." Reluctantly, I accepted his advice. On my way home, I stopped at a medical clinic. The doctor, after a quick examination, diagnosed a common cold. "Rest, drink fluids, take these medications," he recommended, handing me a prescription. "You'll be better in a few days." I bought the medications at the pharmacy and returned to my apartment, convinced that a little rest and medicine would be enough. I remember thinking that I could not afford to be sick for too long. There were bills to pay, money to send to my family, classes to attend. That night, lying in my bed, wrapped in blankets trying to appease the chills that shook me, I didn't imagine I was living my last hours of normalcy. I didn't know that, at dawn, my life would take such a drastic turn. It would divide my existence into before and after. Dawn brought an alarming aggravation. I woke up in panic, unable to move my legs. I tried to get up, but my body seemed not to respond to the commands of my brain. The panic grew when I realized that the numbness was spreading, climbing up my legs toward my torso. "Help!" I shouted to my roommate, Nasser, who slept in the next room. "I can't move." Nasser entered my room sleepily, but upon seeing my condition, sleep instantly dissipated from his eyes. "I'll call an ambulance," he said, running to the phone. The minutes that followed were of growing terror. The numbness continued to rise, like a relentless tide. When the paramedics arrived, I could barely move my arms. Their voices seemed to come from far away, their faces blurred by my increasingly cloudy vision. The ambulance trip to St. Paul Hospital was a succession of strobe lights and muffled sirens. In the emergency room, doctors and nurses moved around me with controlled urgency. Questions were asked, but my ability to respond diminished with each minute. Blood was collected, tests performed, specialists called. The last clear thought I had before losing consciousness was about my mother and my brothers. Who would take care of them if something happened to me? Who would send money? Who would fight to bring them to Canada? Then, darkness. Later, they told me what happened in the days that followed. How my body continued to surrender, system by system. How my lungs stopped functioning, requiring mechanical ventilation. How the doctors, bewildered, couldn't identify what was happening to me. How the Afghan community mobilized, gathering in vigils, preparing for the worst. How my uncle Haroon was contacted in the United States and immediately flew to Vancouver. Guillain-Barré syndrome, a name I had never heard, but which would now define a crucial part of my existence. A rare condition where the immune system, weakened and confused, attacks the peripheral nerves, causing muscle weakness that quickly evolves to paralysis. 1 in millions of people is affected by this microscopic bacteria that lives in the air around all of us. And I, Wahid Omid, Afghan musician, immigrant, son, brother, friend, I was that 1 in millions. The coma lasted days that for me did not exist. When I finally opened my eyes, It was like emerging from a deep, dark ocean. The light hurt me. Sounds arrived, distorted. I couldn't speak. My mouth was full of tubes. I couldn't move. My muscles had forgotten how to obey. I saw familiar and unfamiliar faces. My Uncle Haroon, holding my hand tightly, unshed tears in his eyes. Members of the Afghan community, whose names I barely knew, but who had come to offer support. Nurses and doctors, whose faces became familiar during my long hospital stay. I tried to communicate with my eyes, the only movement I could still control. I nodded slightly, trying to tell them, I'm here. I'm alive. The days that followed were of pain and frustration. Each small victory, moving a finger, breathing without help for a few minutes, was celebrated. But the path to recovery proved long and tortuous. Machines kept me alive, monitoring every beat of my heart, every breath, every bodily function. Doctors discussed my case, fascinated by the rarity and intensity with which the syndrome had struck me. In my long hours of forced immobility, my mind wandered. I thought of Kabul, of the Hindu Kush mountains, of the sound of vendors in the bazaar. I thought of Kiev, where I had studied, of the melodies I had learned, of the friends I had made. I thought of my mother and my brothers in Moscow, waiting for news, for help, for a better future. And I thought of Vancouver, the city that had welcomed me, that now fought to keep me alive. A city I had barely begun to explore, to know, to love. Slowly, as days turned into weeks, my body began to respond. First, small finger movements. Then, the ability to swallow without help. Each achievement was celebrated as a great victory in the ongoing battle against paralysis. The doctors explained the situation to me with gentle frankness. Guillain-Barré syndrome had attacked me with unusual ferocity, taking advantage of an immune system already compromised by chronic stress, poor diet, and overwork. Recovery would be slow, possibly partial. There were no guarantees that I would walk again, play again, be who I was before. But there was hope. And at that moment, among tubes and machines, surrounded by people I barely knew in a country that was not yet truly my home, I clung to hope like a castaway clings to wreckage in the open sea. At night, when the hospital quieted and only the constant hum of machines broke the silence, I composed melodies in my mind. Notes that spoke of loss, of pain, but also of resilience, of determination. Melodies that one day I promised myself I would play again. Recovery would be my new mission. And after, I would resume the previous mission, reuniting my family, building a new home, creating a new life. Vancouver, with its breathtaking beauty and promise of a new beginning, would wait for me. Canada, land of welcome and opportunities, would give a second chance not just to me, but to my entire family. The journey would be long, the challenges immense. But I, Wahid Omid, had already survived war, exile. I would survive this too. I closed my eyes, imagining the day when I would be standing again, playing, singing. The day when I would embrace my mother and my brothers on Canadian soil. The day when the word home would again have a concrete, tangible meaning. That day would come. I would make it come.
This love is all something brand new. Now I have devoted my love. It seems it is all too easy. You leave before love even starts. Don't say you don't know what to do, sweetheart. You will never know the pain of a broken heart. The stars number you, wishes you, and blame you to stay forever. I don't know what to do. I need your love. Crying doesn't help my pain. I need your touch. I need your touch. I miss our dreams again. Come back to me. This love I give to you. You need someday. Come back to me. Hey, don't say goodbye. I give all my heart to you. Remember you promised you love. It's breaking a heart so easy to have never said goodbye. Don't say you don't know what to do, sweetheart. You will never know